Hey 441 listeners, I'm Bailey Cichon. I'm a juggler with a lot of questions about the juggling community. The 441 is the show where I assemble a panel of jugglers to find the answers. I hope to inspire you to continue the conversation. This episode tackles a topic that I've been wondering about since I was introduced to the juggling community a few years ago. How does the International Jugglers Association plan its annual festival? And it turns out I'm not the only one who's curious. This is our most requested episode. But before we dive into that, I want to make a little note. If you listened to our last episode, The Art of the Juggling video, you'll remember it was our very first video episode of the 441. And I've decided I like the format, and my goal is that all future episodes of the 441 will be available both in audio and video formats. So if you're listening on a podcasting app, this is available on the International Jugglers Association's YouTube channel, IJA Jugglers. And there's going to be photos and videos on screen throughout the podcast that will enhance your experience. So if that sounds great, maybe pop over there. Otherwise, just keep listening. And one more thing before I introduce our panel, I just want to make sure everybody has the same working understanding of what the IJA Festival is. It is a week-long festival put on by the International Jugglers Association. I've had the privilege of experiencing 3 of these festivals, and each one looks a little different. But at its core, the IJA Festival has a 24-hour gym, and that is usually held in the ballroom of a convention center. There's a busy schedule of daily workshops. There's a few stage shows. There's competitions like X juggling. X means extreme juggling or numbers. And then there's the IJA World Championships, which is a stage competition. Each festival has its own lineup of special events, like Battle Night, which I have always described as a rap or dance battle, but for juggling, or the Gauntlet, which is a juggling obstacle course. We will talk about the Gauntlet later, and you will see footage from a past Gauntlet as well. The IJA Festival Week is so jam-packed that you literally cannot do it all. I wondered how this volunteer-driven festival happens year after year, so I assembled a panel of folks who have served in festival leadership positions to look at how they get things done and keep the festival fresh. Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us for this conversation today. Can you introduce yourself and talk about the areas that you volunteer in for the IJA and any other festivals that you've volunteered with?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm Afton. I use she, they pronouns. Either order is perfectly fine. I volunteer with the IJA as the treasurer, and then I also work with registration and on-site coordination for the festival. And then I also volunteer with Mondo Juggling and Unicycle Festival out of St. Paul, Minnesota, and Portland Juggling Festival out of Portland, Oregon.
My name is Noel Yee. This is my 8th year as a board member, non-contiguously. It's a part of the IJA. I've coordinated the festival in 2018, 2023, and 2024 and helped in varying capacities in between. I own a business called the Flow Arts Institute. I'm one of the partners, and we have events in 3 states: Ohio, where Kinetic Fire happens, Georgia, where Flame happens, and Fire Drums in California. I'm also the co-founder of the Hoop John Festival here in Philadelphia. And yeah.
I'm Ross Berenson. I have been helping with the IJA as a board member at one point, then the board chair, and now I've stepped down and I am operations. In addition to that, for the past number of years, I've helped out with the festival, thanks to Noel. He got me my start in 2018 as show director. Since then, I've been show director, I think, 4 times. It's kind of a blur at this point. When I have not been show director, I've helped out producing other festivals. I have helped out just in various areas. I also have been a workshop coordinator. And yeah, that's my involvement with the IJA.
Great. Well, I think the best place to start this conversation is at like the beginning of the process, which is deciding where the festival is going to be. For listeners who aren't familiar with where the last couple of IJA festivals have been, this year it was in Evansville, Indiana. Then previously it was in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and then South Bend, Indiana, and then Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And then this upcoming year, it's going to be in Fort Wayne, Indiana, right? Woohoo! Has it ever been outside of the US?
Yeah.
Yes, 3 times. It's been in Montreal twice and Quebec City once.
So just kind of going through that list, that's a lot of Indiana. Can you talk about the limitations and considerations? Maybe Afton can start that go into finding the future festival site.
We need a very specific size venue, somewhere between 500 and 800 people. We need a theater space as well. It needs to be a space that lets us operate 24/7 for the gym. And we like everything to be like within walking distance, to have a hotel attached, all that jazz, right? So it's very convenient and easy for everyone to come and attend. And everything's right there the whole week. You don't have to be, taking a lot of shuttles or driving anywhere. And then we also need to just fall into a really specific price point. And the way Mike Sullivan and Jake Darrow, who are festival site coordinators, they find the sites for the IJA, describe it. These mid-sized cities are the ones that work best for us. They want people to come there during the summer. We're looking for a space in the summer, and they usually give us a pretty solid deal where a space might cost 40 to 50,000 just for the gym space for a week. We can get that for under 20, which is a huge difference.
And how far in advance does this process start? For, say, like Fort Wayne, when did that process start?
We signed the contracts for Fort Wayne in 2021. We try and plan 4 to 5 years out.
Yeah. And then just why has the Midwest kind of worked the last couple of years?
Mostly the size and then the price point. I mean, people are not doing as many events in the summer from what it sounds like from tourism. And also tourism is excited to have people from out of town come into town to bring life and dollars really at the end of the day. Tourism's a business and we're also a business, so it's a good partnership.
I think Afton summed it up where we're really attractive to mid-tier cities. I think cities like Fort Wayne, Cedar Rapids, Green Bay, which are not necessarily big cities. I don't want to say big, but I think we're really attractive to those. So when our future site festival coordinators go out, those are the cities that are really interested in us. Unfortunately, due to our size, we're not necessarily attractive to the larger cities, which have larger convention centers, which run a higher price point, and are looking for events that have a larger population to fill their hotels, to eat at their restaurants. And if we could put it closer to large areas, for example, in Springfield, Massachusetts, we had an event. It was fairly successful, and I think that is due to the proximity to New York City, Boston, and other large areas. Not just the big city, but all of the surrounding areas also contain a lot of jugglers and people. It's amazing. I just got to say that when we go to a town like Evansville, we like rock the town, which is pretty cool. Like we bring enough people to the city to make them notice that we're there and they're really happy to have us. And so in a lot of ways, even though it's in Indiana often, or has been, I feel happy to go to those places because I think a lot of the people there are really, really excited to have us and happy to have us.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions we get a lot is why aren't we on the West Coast? Why aren't we at the East Coast? And it's part money, but also like Noel said, it's definitely the fact that we don't have as many people as they're requiring. A really good example of this is Portland, Oregon. The IJ was in Portland, Oregon decades ago, and I happened to be there for the Portland Juggling Festival, talked to their convention center person. They pulled our file from the past and she said, "Oh, that's great. I looked at your request for proposal, which we send out to anyone who's interested in us. We have a huge packet of information for what we look for." And she said, "This looks great. We could probably work with you on the price. However, we book around 1,200 to 1,300 what they call room nights for the whole week of the festival. So that's people booking hotel rooms. They require 800 a day. And they won't even talk to us unless we can guarantee we're going to secure that many hotel rooms a day. So that's it's a huge barrier to jump to a big city like Portland versus Fort Wayne, which is a large city, just it's not Portland.
Yeah, dedicated 441 listeners know I'm from Cedar Rapids. I got introduced to the IJA when everybody came back in 2022, and now they're coming back to my city, and I'm so excited because I want to host people, I want to show people around town. I'm so excited. But what are some considerations? Like, why are they coming back to Cedar Rapids, or why would you return to a city within 10 years of being there?
So this is our third time going back to Cedar Rapids. Yes, it's been every five, I guess, years, our big years. They love us there. It's a great, we get great feedback on the city. There's a lot of nice restaurants and bars within walking distance. The hotel is nice. I hear been a lot of construction since we've been there. It's a growing city. They welcome us. And that's why we keep going back. It's fairly accessible from nearby bigger cities. A lot of people are able to drive there, and that's a big thing. There's a lot of people that drive and a lot of people that fly. It's hard to find a happy medium for everyone, and Cedar Rapids ends up being a fairly accessible location for us.
And these aren't just conversations that are happening over the phone or a Zoom call. Like, people are physically visiting the sites. Who are some of the folks that go out there besides the Future Festival site coordinators?
When we're selecting sites, just the Future Festival site coordinators, and then they bring a really extensive report with photos, sometimes videos, the write-up on the city, lists of different attractions, food, etc., back to the board of directors, who then reviews that, asks follow-up questions, etc., before we get final contracts for where we're going to book.
Afton, do you have to be invited to the IJA festival to attend?
No, please come. Everybody's welcome. And you can also become an IJA member. You don't have to be invited to do that either.
Can you describe the crowd of people that comes to IJA festivals? Is it a lot of older folks? Is it a lot of younger folks? Are there people who have never juggled before coming to the festivals, or is it just people who have been juggling for like at least a decade?
It's everybody. We have all ages from teeny tiny babies. Like two of my favorite attendees are under the age of 3. They're adorable and hilarious. There were 2 people this year who found out about us because they lived in Evansville and then bought gym passes for the whole week, learned to juggle, and hung out the whole week. And they're looking at coming next year already. Like, that's how new they were to juggling. And they came to the event for the whole week. And then there's people who have been juggling professionally for decades who are just in the gym, doing awesome stuff, sharing knowledge, teaching workshops, being awesome.
Our guest gave a brief overview of how future festival sites are chosen, but I bet if I sat down with the IJA's future festival site coordinators, they would have a lot more to say. They dedicate countless hours to finding the best host cities, and I know that I am super grateful for their dedication and commitment. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Mike and Jake. And if that's a conversation that you'd like to hear, tell me in the comments or send me a message at the 441 Juggling Podcast on Instagram. I'm going to switch gears and let's talk about festival leadership. Afton, can you tell me what the festival director does and if they receive payment?
Yeah, so the festival director is compensated. It's a contract role. The IJA doesn't have paid staff. We have contractors. Their job is to facilitate the festival happening and the required activities that the IJA says have to happen. So that's things like the stage shows, our championship competition, numbers competition, joggling. There's other things as well. And they coordinate all the volunteers. They set the tone, they set the vibe, they set the theme, they make sure the shirt's designed. They're in charge of making sure everything happens. Noel in 2018 put together a core group of people to run various areas of the festival. So it wasn't just falling on the festival director, which freed all of us up actually to do a lot more throughout the week, and have fun and hang out with our friends too, as well as planning the festival. So no one had to just go to Noel to get an answer. There were 4 people who could give an answer on anything at any time, and we all knew who was in charge of what. So it was really easy to say, oh, you have a question about shows or performers? That's Ross. And it made it super easy. And we've continued that model past 2019. And it's a great way to do it. So I wouldn't recommend a festival director come in and try and oversee doing every single piece of the festival. It's exhausting.
Noel, do you want to talk about why it was important to try the core leadership team? Just why was that something you wanted to do?
I think it comes from the concept of delegation, which is a really thing that people say a lot, but what does that actually mean? It means actually putting power and trust into other people's hands, which is a pretty tricky thing to do, especially with an organization that's held so sacred to so many, right? And I would understand if you were the festival director that you wouldn't feel comfortable passing off some of those things due to their like getting done. What I do, I want to have as many people as possible involved, even if they make mistakes, even if it's not perfect. That's just who I am, and that kind of speaks to like my education background. So one, it's more fun to work with other people, but also I think it can be more efficient. It can provide like an additional human to like more humans can interact rather than every human wanting just one person's attention. And it kind of, and I also think it creates a system where if something were to happen to me at any festival that I produce, it would still happen. Like, and I think that's something having no point of failure, I just heard from Sophia, our registrar. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot since she said that to me a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, which means that making sure that if something happens to anybody, the festival could still continue. And that's actually turned out to be the case over the years. We've had different coordinators of varying areas kind of fall through for whatever life and whatever's happening, including potentially the festival director at times. And we've been able to still maintain the IJ event. And that's been really nice. And it feels good. So, yeah, I guess that's just to make sure that there's more cooks in the kitchen, which at the same time sort of slows things down at times. But I do think it's an important aspect of sustainability of anything.
Redundancy, that's key, which we're also trying to handle within the IJA org itself.
Yeah. So all of you guys have different areas that you just absolutely rock at. What are your superpowers when you guys get together to do the core team? Ross, let's start with you.
Okay, so I'm very organized and I like logistics. So, and my day job, I'm a web developer and designer. So I end up, well, I built the Festa website a number of years ago. I forget what year we kicked it off, but we needed its own site. So I built one. I also handle the hotel logistics because majority of the hotel work is for the performers. So I handle that, all the check-in, check-out, make sure everyone is settled, has a place. And then show director. My first time doing it was for the New York City Festival in 2013. I took, well, Vivica Gardiner and Matt from Pratt, and Miles, they all started that festival a long time ago. There was a hiatus for a bit, and I stepped in and were able to find the venue. And I made that festival happen, and that was the first time I also produced a juggling show. And I really enjoyed it. I liked seeing all the work, hard work be executed and see a final product. So I'm glad that Noel gave me the chance in 2018 and for other chances as well throughout the years when he directed and Afton and whoever else has asked me in the past. So I guess those are my superpowers.
Noel, what's your superpower?
I think bringing people together, really. I try to reach as far as possible in terms of networking people to be a part of this. It's like a really big deal to me. Yeah, I often consider myself sort of like a loner often, and I always kind of look for people that are kind of on the fringe to make sure that they're become a part of they have the option to be a part of the inside. And that's like, so that's what I guess my main superpower. And I think another thing that's really, and my another one is I kind of have a high tolerance for messiness. And I think that's something that has come from my education background, sort of like kind of the opposite of Ross in some ways. Like I can deal with things being a little bit sort of disorganized and not feel too stressed out by it. Um, but yeah, I guess bringing people together and having fun in the mess.
Afton, your last.
Yeah. I'm good with numbers and I deal with a lot of the contracting. I'm good at dealing with venues. I don't mind doing the back and forth, making sure all of the details for the events at the convention center are the way they need to be. And then making sure also that we were charged properly and that people have their festival passes and taking care of the little things that come up all the time, like a microphone dies or someone doesn't have sound, and fixing those things quickly in the moment and moving past that. So yeah, the numbers and I guess gym logistics in that regard to Ross's show logistics and people moving around, and then Noel's people coordinating.
So you guys just talked about the years and years and years that you guys have volunteered for the IJA, and it takes many, many more people to put on the festival every year. What are some areas that everyday folks volunteer in every year?
Workshops.
Workshops is a big one. Uh, our welcome person. There's someone to greet people and also kind of break the ice with first timers, make them feel welcome and safe.
Stagehands is
Registration.
like, well, I like
Oh.
getting a stage hand. I think I must have a different stage, at least some new stage hands every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of registration folks. People fold all the programs, all the show programs. We print them the day of, and then we make a little announcement, and 3 to 5 people show up and fold 600 programs every day.
What do you hear from folks when you ask them like why they keep coming back? Why do they keep volunteering every year?
I think they get joy out of it. I also want to say we have a lot of volunteers that organize some of the one-off events as well throughout the festival. Um, every one part of the festival, besides the festival director, is about volunteer. Like Jack Calvin for X Juggling and whoever runs Indie Prop, they're also volunteers. I guess it's all the joy people get. I mean, I do this because someone said it once to me who and I agreed with it. There's no better ROI than seeing tons of people have a good time. And that's why I continue to help out almost every year.
Yeah, I think also I feel like the IJA volunteer setup can be often a little intergenerational. I think, for example, a lot of people that might be, for lack of better words, like past their juggling prime can still be a part of our community by participating and volunteering in different capacities. And I think that's really cool. I've been really on this intergenerational kick about IJA, where it's like one of the few places outside of religion where you can connect with people across ages, whether, you're a child at the Youth Juggling Academy or you're, a little bit older helping out in some other capacity. And I just think that that's another like source of volunteers is like I think a lot of people that have been around for a while realize the need and want to continue kind of like Ross said to help bring joy and sort of like support other jugglers in their journey.
And a lot of people like juggling, but also at some point, some of us, like myself included, my first few IJs, I went to every workshop I could go to. I tried 100 new things, and I have really good friends, and it's super fun to make an event where people can come and have a good time. But also sometimes it's just nice to have like a thing to do, which is like why I register or why I volunteer with Portland for registration is I like going to that festival. It's a good time. And it's also just kind of nice to have something to do with my time. And I still get to juggle and see my friends and enjoy the festival while helping make it a success.
I've volunteered for a couple of festivals now, and I think it's been, especially as somebody who's new to the community, it was a really great way to meet people and also understand how the festival runs and learn the city too. Like Afton, I think you needed some tickets run over to the theater in Green Bay, and I did it, and I learned where the theater was, so I knew where it was that night. Like just really simple stuff like that, or running people to the airport. Like it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but you know that it's super impactful on the people that you're helping out. So prior to talking to Noel, Afton, and Ross, the piece of the IJA Festival puzzle that I was most interested in learning about was the stage shows. They put on like 4 stage shows in 6 days. And while I've had the ability to be behind the scenes during tech and, of course, attend the shows, I really didn't have a line of sight into the work that happens prior to festival week and a lot of the work that went in during festival week. Before talking with our panelists, I thought that to be a part of an IJA stage show, you had to be invited by the IJA. And I also thought maybe it might be fairly easy for them to secure performers who are eager for the opportunity to take the IJA stage. Spoiler alert, these preliminary thoughts were quite wrong. So let's listen to the dose of reality that the panelists shared with me. All right, Ross, let's talk about the shows. And can you first talk about, like, you book the shows, you coordinate with the theater, you work on the contracts. What else does the show director do, I guess, if that doesn't cover it?
So you cover part of it, yes. I would say I oversee all theater activities. So I'd be the point person for championships and all the shows that happen there. So I'm talking directly with the theater and the tech staff and looping in our stage manager. I scout and book all the performers. I write all their contracts. I handle all the travel logistics for them and their housing logistics. And I coordinate with the workshop coordinator because we like to have our invited guests offer workshops. So I schedule it with them to make sure it works with their schedule and doesn't conflict with their rehearsal time or whatever. So moving pieces.
And you invite the performers, right? They don't outreach to you and say, hey, I'm interested in performing.
It's both. We have performers reach out and I also contact.
Tell me how you decide what props to invite, which performers to invite. How do you kind of cultivate each show? And you don't do every single show, right?
No, I have had someone else do flow show because I'm not as knowledgeable in that department. So Noel has helped out there. But I have done the welcome show and Cascade and the open stage a few years ago. So I'm going to speak for myself because every show director is different. But I have my own rule where I like to bring in new faces, performers that have never been to the IJA at all, or performers that have never been on an IJA stage. And then my second rule is if I can't get those, performers that haven't graced their stage in over 8 years. Well, I like to bring new faces because it's really exciting for them. This is their first IJ usually, and they bring a great energy into the gym space. So it benefits in all different areas. For props, I like to have at least one of everything, honestly. It's hard to do that because a lot of performers juggle balls and clubs. Um, Devil sticks are really hard to find and more unique props. And I'd say the real challenge, though, is the show budget. Airfare is very expensive. So, yes, there's performers that have incredible acts with unique props, but it might cost us $2,000 to get them to the festival, and we can't afford that. In addition to the cost of hotels nights for them, most people think we get hotel spots for free. It's not really like that. We are paying. So that's probably the biggest challenge is bringing people in from around the world. Also, even domestic travel can sometimes push our budget, depending where we are.
Noel, what are some considerations that you take into account when you're inviting folks to the Flow Show?
Well, I've also been show director a couple. I've also been show director 3 to 4 times over the years. But I don't know. For me, I'm really looking for diversity. And I guess that word is similar to what Ross said in prop and personhood. So that's a really big deal to me. And I feel pretty proud for the past 2 times I was show director. I had a person of color MC the Cascade of Stars, which is pretty legendary, although I feel like I maybe stole one of those people from Ross, who's so big. But I would say that like that's something, diversity is like one thing that I really look for. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to the flow show itself, I think what's really challenging is and this is something that's like the shows has really gotten in my head over the years, but the IJA shows used to be a place for, or still is, but really focused on professionals. Like professional performers would come to the IJA and, you would do your act and maybe, I don't even know if this is true, but like talent scouts would be there or other people to network would be there. And then you would be able to, you would see the best of the best. And I think at this point, it's sort of the flow show. When I talk about that, talking the best of flow performers is a different universe because I don't think there's actually as many venues for people that do flow arts to perform, if that makes sense. And I would say that overall, the flow performances tend to be at going to say it, like a little bit of a lower level than the juggling performance simply because it's newer and there's not as many avenues and like tradition. And then also to be perfectly candid, like what is flow is a larger question. Like, is there a barrier between flow and juggling? And that's something that has become a little blurred because in 2018 was the first time we had the flow show. I sort of said, Ross, we're going to do a flow show, and we did one. But over the course of time, maybe, this year might be the year, but maybe that the need is no longer needed to sort of integrate flow and juggling. Who knows? And that's up to this year's show director for the festival to make that decision. I'll go with whatever they say. So, yeah.
Well, you're saying that I feel because at least when I've produced the shows, I also like incorporating flow acts now in the Welcome Show and Cascade because they deserve to also be on the same stage, same shows.
We've worked hard to build a culture of they
Yeah.
need to be in, like, we need to have diversity in style, people, props, etc. in all of the shows. So it's come a long way.
Yeah. And then one other challenge I know Noel's ran into, and I have too, uh, competing with other contracts for other circuses. We can't really compete because it's a one-off show for us, and they have a month or two contract. And also visas are always a tough one. So when people are questioning, why don't you have this performer or that performer? They don't really know the work that is put forth to try to get these performers, or even who cancel last minute, because I know both of us have had headliners cancel like 2 or 3 weeks out from the festival because they got a gig that they couldn't turn down.
Some countries can't go to the US or Canada.
That too.
They have a visa, and the wait times are over 300 days. And
Yeah.
that's a maybe they'll get it, maybe they won't. And hundreds of dollars of their time and energy trying to make that happen, only for them to maybe get to the States to be turned away.
Hmm.
Like, people aren't up for taking that challenge on, and you can't blame them for that.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, I helped someone, I've written letters, I was their person for the forms, helped them figure out the scheduling for their interviews. And after months of work, they were denied before even seeing someone. They got to the embassy and they got a slip, and that was that. So it's tough.
Yeah, I would say actually, to be honest, that's probably the largest challenge for me. The visa thing is really challenging because the IJA can only help so much, and
Hmm.
it also becomes owned by that person's desire and potential risk they're willing to take coming to the States, and that has only gotten harder, especially as mainly being a part of the show team last year in 2025. Uh, it was it was pretty challenging to ask people to take that risk to come to the States and to try to make, yeah, it's become harder in the current climate.
Yeah. And we had people reach out to us who then changed their mind because things shifted and it wasn't feeling good for them anymore. The nice part is everybody is always really respectful and kind and disappointed that they can't make it or that they have to change their plans, and we're respectful and kind back because we get it.
Yeah, but there's a lot more to it also. While producing the shows, Noel and I both spend a lot of time at the theater. We are there for tech for about 6 hours before, 7 hours before the show. There for the show. There's a lot of coordinating with the performers, getting all their tech specs, handing it to the stagehands. But there's also, I know, a lot of excitement. I am always excited to see the final product. I like hearing the feedback, positive and negative, from attendees because you can't please everyone, but I like to hear both sides so I know what I could possibly work on for my next time being show director because I personally find it to be a fun challenge to tried to hit all the marks with everyone.
Yeah, when I met you, Ross, you were running tech for Cascade of Stars. I just popped
Yeah.
into the theater because I wanted to interview some folks, and
Hmm.
it was so impressive just as an outsider seeing all of these shows, individual shows, come together in like a day. Um, really
Yeah.
incredible, and seeing it happen every year. It's so amazing. So thank you to everybody who volunteers in that regard. Like so much time is spent in the theater, and behind the scenes even before we get to the theater. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
thanks,
it
Harris.
goes without saying. We have to say Andrian.
Yeah.
I just have to say her name in the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Andrian, who is our stage manager and lighting tech designer, and is in the theater for an obscene amount of time throughout the course of the week, making sure that every act, every championship, she goes to all the shows. Not like we get a break for champs usually because Vivica and Neil Fred will manage that show, but she is there working her hardest, trying to make sure everybody looks great and has really high standard and is really professional. And I just can't say I can say that without a solid person in that role, this job would
Yeah.
be significantly more
Yes.
challenging.
Yeah, she saves hundreds of hours, I would say, by how detailed she is in pre-calls with the theater. She knows exactly what we need. She lays out the grid and sends all this stuff in advance of the shows, which makes the shows go easier throughout the week. And it was not this easy before she was here helping
Yes.
out.
How do you keep the festival fresh year to year? I know the open stage was a super popular addition in Green Bay. Um, that was something new. Maybe we can talk about, did that come back this year? If it didn't, why not? How do you keep the festival fresh?
So I brought the open stage to Green Bay, inspired by Keith Nelson because he was my muse for it because he runs the Spindle Stiff Open Stage, and I thought it would be a good idea to give amateur performers, newcomers, a chance to perform and get feedback, and feedback was key. So worked with Afton and Noel. We secured the space in the convention center. We got the risers. We had some lighting, and I also had forms printed that I was able to hand out to the audience if they wanted to give back feedback. I collected all those at the end of the show, and then those performers that wanted the feedback, I did give them all the submit filled out forms. I like that idea because it really, I don't know, it definitely was a top hit for a lot of people that year, which was really exciting for me to hear. And all the performers were really excited to be a part of it. It was a great show. I hope to bring it back to 2026, which is this upcoming or next year's festival. This past year, uh, it didn't happen. I didn't attend, and I know everyone else was very busy with other tasks, so there's no one able to step up for that one. But next year, I will be bringing it back.
And I'm not sure if it's going to come back for the 80th necessarily, but it's sort of been nice to have a big, longer show and then the open stage. And I don't know, maybe the open stage will become a staple, but we had Wes's show in South Bend, and then we had the open stage, and then we had Michael Karras' show, and then this year we have the open stage. So I don't know if that's going to continue to be the every other, but it is nice to have the availability that if a juggler that we all love, which would be Michael Karras and Wes, we could have the space for them to do something really special. I mean, who's to say we can't do both? But I'm just put it out there that yeah, that's kind of been the sort of trend for the past 4 years at least.
Hmm. That too, that's a factor.
Yeah. The space part is kind of a factor on some of that. And then in regards to just like keeping the festival fresh, I feel like we try and do something new or a few small things new every year. Sometimes they're bangers and they work out great and they go off without a hitch and everybody loves them, and sometimes they don't. David Kane in 2019 did a whole bunch of things that nobody had done. He did a movie night, he did a game show night. He made like ridiculous props that were just like really awkward to juggle, which is super funny, and people could just play with them in the gym. And those were all different things that didn't continue to come back. whether it was lack of someone to lead it, which is a lot of times the case. The events like indie prop competition and X juggling, even juggling in numbers, like those happen because people step up and own it. And we've also had things like I went to Biz, who runs games and ran games last year, and I had a photo idea that I saw at a wedding where everyone could upload whatever photos they wanted about the event. And they had kind of gamified it for the wedding, but I didn't know how to do that 2 weeks ahead of the IJA. But Biz did, and it resulted in activities people could participate in all throughout the day. He posted quests in the middle of the night and just sent people on like scavenger hunts. People made memes, people made art and poetry and built pyramids out of bricks, and it was really cool. And that was something that just kind of was a, well, let's see what happens. And it worked out great.
Yeah, I think, for example, a really good one, to say, probably the best in the past multitude of years was the Gauntlet in Green Bay.
Before we go any further, we need to take a second to talk about what the Gauntlet is. The Gauntlet is a juggling obstacle course. And before I experienced my first one, it was literally the stuff of IJA legend. If you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, hop over to YouTube. I'm going to have clips of the Gauntlet in Green Bay on the screen during this part of our conversation, so you can see what that looks like. I have only ever experienced one gauntlet, but from conversations with folks like Mark Hayward, who is one of the brains behind dreaming up, planning, and constructing gauntlets, I know that the gauntlet team's hard work is driven by the joy that their creations bring others, and the challenge of designing a set of difficult circumstances that jugglers cannot find anywhere else. Let's get back to our conversation.
Yeah, I think, for example, a really good one, to say, probably the best in the past multitude of years was the Gauntlet in Green Bay, which was the most incredibly produced IJA project that I've ever seen. To be perfectly honest, like the production level was extremely high. There was a huge wedge of cheese on a big pole that spun around, and there was like a LED screen when you throw the juggling ball. It was absolutely crazy.
And it was programmed to like go off when you hit the thing, and it's just
So yeah, I would say like the Gauntlet is one of those things that has happened every once in a while. We've had like sand painting, sand painting thing,
That's
which
right.
something like that might come back this year, but there's a lot of different things that like, yeah. If anybody listening has an idea to bring to IJ, pretty much you're pretty close to reality by just asking asking somebody in charge.
Very true.
Yeah, you're one step away from reality, really. And the gauntlet doesn't happen annually because it takes a lot of time and energy to build it ahead of the festival, and then they have to be able to transport it. Right? But if you have an idea, make it happen.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things that happen naturally, like the memes everywhere and the posters that maybe you guys want to talk about some of the homegrown things that become like big memories in people's minds, like Tubi.
Like Tubi.
Tubi is the one that sticks out for me.
This happens with regional festivals too. There tends to be something early in the week, whether it's at Renegade, this just happened to be at the Welcome Show, where people latch on to a thing. And in Green Bay, it was Tubi, which is a character that Tony Steinbach uses in his stage performance. People were very upset that Tubi met his demise on stage. I woke up the next morning and walked to the gym, and I was like, who left all this stuff on the floor in the hall? And then I got closer, and someone had made a shrine to Tubi, and people were like leaving little paper flowers and like writing little memorial things. It's fun and it's funny. And for anyone who doesn't know, Tubi is an inflatable tube man. No worries.
Yeah, we have the disc golf thing
Oh
that
yeah.
has sort of grown out of the IJ. There was, I mean, yearly a couple disc golfing jugglers or juggling disc golfers would go out on a day during the festival, and the meetup became more organized over the past couple of years. And then maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we initially purchased IJA branded discs, which was kind of a smash. I don't know if it was as a smash this year, but it was a smash, and they've gone out again, and so that's now a thing that will happen for as long as it's going to happen.
Tell me some stories of things that have come up in the middle of the week that needed some on the spot problem solving. I'm sure like you plan and plan and plan, but something will always go wrong.
My least favorite was well, for me personally, for 2022, there was an incident with a person trying to bring an animal into the theater, and they were being pretty rude, and so let the theater deal with that. And as soon as so I missed the first like 15 minutes of the welcome show. I get to my seat, and I get a text message from Ross saying that someone messaged him telling them they were closing the gym. And so I left the welcome show no more than 10 minutes after I had sat down and ran over to the gym where they were closing the convention center. They were like, "No, you're done for the night." And I'm like, "No, we're not. We're really not." And I had to sit there and wait for security to get a hold of our rep to tell him it was okay to leave the lights on and let us stay in the space. So I missed the welcome show for various reasons, but that was one of the things where if 500 people had come back to a locked gym would have been a pretty chaotic situation. So I'm happy that someone told Ross, who then told me, and we dealt with it right away. But yeah, those things.
That incident with guests trying to bring an animal to the theater that caused some commotion with security and also got to me backstage because they're asking, "Is he with you?" Or because they were claiming that they were performing in the show. And then I made a mistake in, I think it was it the same year? The last time we
Cedar
were in Cedar
Rapids.
Rapids. Yeah. Uh, I missed a performers game on the hotel list, and the hotel sold out all their rooms, so we had no spot for them. But luckily, our contact at the hotel was able to find them a room at a nearby hotel, which actually worked out for the best because they have well, they're vegan and there was nothing nearby that is vegan friendly, so they were able to find restaurants and food that they could actually eat near their hotel. So blessing in disguise.
I think the hardest thing that I've seen was in 2018, we used a fairly large convention center called the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. And we only used a small section of the convention center, and things were going pretty good. And then some point during the week, they actually rented out the second half of the same kind of convention center we were in to a basketball event where there was like team basketball. But to make things extra complicated, this basketball league tend to have a lot of young boys of color in the basketball team. And they all of a sudden, for jugglers and everybody alike, initially had this like metal detector that everybody had to go through. And then it got like extra weird because they only metal detected the kids going to the basketball thing. And it just became this like kind of like bad feeling situation. And in a certain way, I would think that like kids that are ballers might be interested in juggling. So it would have been cool to have some crossover. But that was a particularly hard thing to navigate with the convention center, with many jugglers being upset about the whole security guard thing, and other jugglers being upset about why these are getting checked and we aren't. And
We aren't.
so yeah, that was like a particularly tricky, like weird.
Yeah, that convention center was also just tricky.
Yeah, it was tough.
They took the IJA logo and put a big red X through it, and said no jugglers instead of talking to us and being like, "Hey, people can't be in the hallway juggling," which we would have been like on it. We came back to signs that said no jugglers, and we're like, "What is this?"
But
Yeah.
yeah, we've had issues with cockroaches in the green room going on food, so I got to toss that and get new food for performers. Staff challenges for that everywhere. Yeah, I don't know. We always focus on solutions. So these problems come up, and then we figure out, okay, how can we resolve the issue? Because we can't sit and wait. We got to figure something out. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's always something.
I like to think of like the joyous things. I guess I never really think about the negative things as much, to be honest. Like I was
You're a
just
good
thinking
person,
like
Noel.
I just try to not, I mean, I can, in the moment it's fun to like rip on a really annoying thing happening or to sort of giggle about it. But I think in general, I don't know, I'll speak for everybody, but I'm trying to focus on the positive things that happen at the festival because I think if you get too, and it's fair, sometimes you got to vent and kind of go down a sort of dark spiral for a little while, but I think really think like I'm excited about the Sky King Award. I think like that's something that's happened at the festival in the past couple of years that like honors a person that I really enjoyed working with. That's really important to a lot of jugglers in our community. And the Ability Award and having it be a thing has been really amazing. The Flamingo Club also falls into that category of sort of a thing that's been built throughout the IJ that continues. And I feel like those things bring me kind of like a little bit of joy, like new things that bring more jugglers in. Actually, the Planting the Juggling Seed show, I think, is another really amazing aspect, and especially a shout out to the YJ committee that's really worked hard over the past, actually, not just 3 years, like they've been going hard for a long time, like at least the
Hmm.
past seven or so. The YJ has had different iterations from the button initial launch to the book where it's now. I just feel like youth juggling has in my mind, I'm just speaking for myself, has kind of gone up and down. But I do think that the YJ has been a part of bringing it back to where it's going. And even Ross and Andy, the 2027 festival directors, have suggested a really cool plan to allow children into the festival for free. And that's been really, I think it's received well. I don't know, it seems like people like it. So I think really working on getting our youngest jugglers at the forefront of what we do is pretty fun too.
But yeah, obviously, if we didn't enjoy helping put on this festival, we wouldn't continue to do it. And I always like bringing, like I said earlier, bringing new faces on stage. It always makes me feel happy. We got to feature a very special person a few years ago that made it to the festival and amazed everyone with their skill. It's just exciting when those type of moments happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, being behind the scenes, you also get to see some of those like heartwarming moments that not everybody is aware of. I don't know if you wanted to share some memories of things that like really just warmed your heart during the festival that you got to experience because you were behind the scenes.
Get it, Noel. You have one ready to go.
Okay, my biggest one, I have to say that a picture of it is when I was a part of the shows in 20, who knows, in South Bend. Um, when
2020.
Jeff Peden gave Wes the award, I was backstage with them, and it was a very special moment to see. I mean, obviously, kids Wes Peden is sick, but like, like as the award presenter, it was just a really, really amazing moment to see them backstage being so close and then see them on stage being so close. It was just like a very heartwarming moment that I don't think if you're in backstage, you wouldn't really get to see sort of that connection.
I think mine's similar to Noel. Seeing all the performers interact with one another backstage and supporting each other is always really fun to see. And all the jokes that happen throughout tech because they start to bond and start bullying each other a little bit, but in a good way. And it's just a very fun dynamic that forms.
Yeah, I would say being backstage, these are all show things. I feel like backstage in the gym is sort of subjective depending on where you are and what's happening at that time. Um, but being backstage when you're either presenting an award or you're backstage to help facilitate an awardee getting an award, it might not seem like our honorary awards are that big of a deal, but they are to the people receiving them and the people who are giving them. And the three of us lucked out and got to present Shavela the honorary award, and being backstage with her and presenting that award was just like the highlight of my festival that year. It was so good and so nice and so heartwarming. And she said many, many beautiful things about being a shy person in the community and what building a community can do for somebody who is a quiet or shy person, or like Noel said, somebody who's maybe on the edge, a little bit of a loner, doesn't feel like they quite belong. You belong at the IJ, and it's cool to see that, and you get to see that a lot backstage, especially with awards.
I was going to say, I think Afton ended it on a nice note. Everyone's welcome. Please come, have fun. You're going to have a blast. It's guaranteed.
Yeah, invite your friends and spread the word that, yeah, if you're under 18 on the first day of the festival, you can pre-register for a gym pass for free and buy show tickets or a t-shirt if you want. But if you're a family and you have kiddos, come on back. I understand it was hard. And so shout out to Ross and Andy for coming up with that because, yeah, we're giving it a go for 26 and we'll be there in 27.
Yeah, I would say just a fun thing to throw out there. And as on a funny note, it was all emotional there, but I would say, a fun thing that anybody who comes to the IJ, speaking of shows, is that Ross in particular has motivated me to dress nicely for the Cascade of Stars.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a sort of big thing. So those of you who maybe go to the Cascade and like, why is everybody dressed fancy? That could be you. That wasn't me for many years. I was coming in my t-shirt and jorts, and Ross one year said, "Hey, dude, get a suit." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's interesting." And so, since that point, I purchased a suit that I've used various times, but also I think making a big deal out of our final show and looking nice with your friends or soon to be friends is pretty cool. So dress up.
Ditto. It's very cool.
Wow, after that conversation, I have a much better line of sight into how the IJA festival is planned and executed. And I think the thing that was most interesting to learn about, again, like I came into this conversation really interested in the shows, but learning about the challenges that they face, specifically like the visa conversation, I'm surprised, but also not surprised in hearing about the difficulties that the IJA faces in getting performers from other countries to the festival. And now I'm wondering if other countries face the same challenges or not. And I'm also wondering if 441 listeners would be interested in me doing another episode featuring another festival. Let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram at the 441 Juggling Podcast. I am planning on attending this year's IJA Festival in Fort Wayne. And if you're interested in attending as well, the dates are July 27th through August 2nd. And early bird pricing is opening right now. So if you're looking for a deal, maybe that's something you wanted to look into. I hope you enjoyed diving into this topic as much as I did. I just like the logistics and maybe some of the more boring stuff that comes with a juggling festival. So I hope that it scratched the same part in your brain that it scratched in mine. Since we're at the end of this episode, let's talk a little bit about the 441. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you've been following the show for a while, this is episode 7. I consider us in season 2. When I first set out for this podcast, I had planned 6 episodes, and then I wanted to see how I felt, where I was at. And I want to keep making more episodes for you. And I'm hoping that I can do some mini episodes so there's less time between episodes. But I have a really great one planned. It's not a mini episode. It's going to be a long one. But I have a really great one planned for episode 8. So I am so excited about the next episode. I can't wait. So stay tuned for that. This episode was sponsored by eJuggle, the official publication of the International Jugglers Association, Modern Vaudeville Press, a boutique publishing company that specializes in nonfiction books about the circus arts, and Jake Darrow. There were a lot of photos and videos in this episode, and not all of it was taken by me. So I want to thank the International Jugglers Association, Afton Benson, Modern Vaudeville Press, and Thayer Slichter. This episode was hosted and produced by Bailey Cichon, and the sound design was created by Benjamin Domas Brew. That's the 441 on planning the IJA Festival. I'm Bailey Cichon.